Hi, I'm Heather Torriente. I'm excited to present my model Bethany to you. Bethany's presenting with completely natural, uncolored touched hair, a lot of beautiful curl and texture. We've already gone in and added dimension with her cut, opening up more curl and giving her curl an opportunity to move with a disconnected shag. What she's looking for is something to enhance her natural color that's going to be low maintenance but really intensify and add vibrancy. Because of the desire for low maintenance, I'm recommending that we keep the ribbons of lighter color and the panels of dimension a little bit concealed throughout the midsection of her hair. We're going to place panels at the parietal ridge, working in sections diagonally toward the back of the hair. With Bethany's hair, we're excited to stay within the copper color family. We love that story on her, and I think it will really enhance her natural auburn hair without giving her a really harsh grow out. For her background color to her nape, from ear to ear, we're going to use 6K at KK mixed with 3%. In that formulation, I'm adding a half of a dropper of At Pure Pigments Pure Orange and a half a dropper of At Pure Pigments Pure Red. I love the chromatic shine that Pure Pigments offers a color, especially when we're staying within the color direction. It just amplifies and expands the color so much. I've had a lot of guests with red hair that have been using Pure Pigments, and they say that the color lasts up to 50% longer. That fading is diminished. In addition, people stop them everywhere they go. You can catch a different reflection of that red in every different light. We love the Pure Pigments here with our red guests. For our ribbons of color in between, we're looking to mimic an 8K. Because her hair's never been color treated, I think that blonding cream is the perfect tool to use. So we're gonna go ahead and use our blonding cream with 9%, and I'm gonna mix into that 10 drops of our orange At Pure Pigments and just 3 drops of cool pink. We're looking to add a little bit of fun and interest to that color. So we're gonna add that. And just a few drops of our cool pink. And this is gonna be ribbons that are placed around the parietal ridge without any regrowth that will show from her base where she parts. We wanna make it as subtle and blended as possible. For the rest of her background, from the nape and up, I've selected 6 kg and we're using that with 6%. Looking to get a little bit more shift in her color and a little bit more interest with that, but also a little more on the copper side, less of the red. With this, we're gonna use a full dropper of the orange At Pure Pigments and a half dropper of the yellow. Canvas with the Pure Pigments and the top sheet color line. It's incredible for the guests to see. First of all, I always suggest mixing and dispensing as much as you can in front of your guests because of how much dimension and excitement it's added. But people can really start to see what you're doing in the work you're creating as more of a science and an art combined. Whereas if you're mixing and going in the back room and just coming out with it, they don't know the thought or the intention that went behind it. So I think this just helps establish one as more of a professional when they're working on their color. With our illuminated copper or illuminated reds, there's so much intense color that starts in that formula that it's really easy to distinguish which one's which. Once we've finished our application from base to ends, section by section, I've emulsified it from base to ends, massaging it downward just to make sure the cuticle is closed and also that that color is penetrating evenly throughout. Even though her hair has very little porosity, it's really important to make sure that that color is worked thoroughly throughout before it's sectioned up and clipped out of the way. The background and foundational color has been put in place. Everything has been clipped out of the way. We're gonna take diagonal sections of ribbons with her blonding cream color to add panels of dimension that are gonna really serve to accentuate her curls and pop that out while also leaving out the top section. This is where we're gonna have our 6K background color and we'll paint the 6K throughout the rest, so that we have a little bit of a blend when she's growing out. Her hair is typically parted right in this area. That way it's not going to show so much when it comes out, but as she wears her hair and it curls, you'll see some dimensions that are going to really open up and expand the shape of the haircut that we've created. The panel that is right close to her face, I'm actually going to take and offer large stitches so that anything that happens to show as she pulls it back will be a little bit more blended and transitional. Something to bear in mind as I'm painting on the blonding cream with our pure pigments, I'm intentionally leaving a varied section for her to have a little bit of a root or a shadow. And then on top of that, I'm going to blend in our 6K, which is our background color, and I'm going to feather that down. I want it to be a really seamless transition there for her. For the following panels and everything that's subsequent to the front pieces, I'm just going to take a jagged ribbon. So this section is a solid panel, but you'll see the variation in the application there, and that's going to help keep the look of it a little softer and more blended. That's the name of the game for her in this grow out. As we're reaching the transition section to the middle back of her hair, I'm going to create a deep V with a panel going each direction. Now that we've put in all of our panels of blonding cream for dimension, we're going to take this triangle section that's in her crown, and we'll use the same color that we used on the bottom, which is our 6K at KK. Everything else in between the panels and on the top are going to be our 6kg. This is just going to add a little bit more depth in this section and higher contrast to the blonde panels. It's important to note, as we work, I want to start in the back of her hair because the panels are laying toward her face. I want to start in the back of her hair with our background color and lay it backwards and away from her face so that when we put the final piece around her hairline, we're keeping it as clean as possible. Once we cleansed and conditioned Bethany's hair with the Carasilk Color shampoo and mask service, I did an overlay to harmonize the color with KB at 7 Illumin. I let that process, and now we have her towel dried. I want to talk about the cut that we did just briefly. Bethany has insane amounts of amazing hair, and it was really losing the curl. She came into me with really long hair. It was just kind of heavy and bulky. Her curl wasn't alive, and she was missing out on the pattern that she had. It was very weighed down. So I went in and I used sliding shears to do a point cut, taking sections down to remove the length and the perimeter. And then around the crown, I over directed the hair and held it straight up and used a sliding technique to scoop and take out layers that were really short in the crown, as you can see here, and then left it disconnected through the bottom. I definitely went in though and took sections of deep V's to slide out and remove weight. But when doing this with curly hair, it's my favorite texture to work with. I love curl, I love texture. And going in to remove weight is what you do to make it come alive. What I like to tell people a lot of the time is it's the difference between trimming a hedge in a hedge fashion versus pruning something that's beautiful and open. So what we're looking for in curly hair is to open up the pattern, to let the curl expand, and so you can really see the dimension of the shape versus cutting a straight square line. I never cut curly hair straight ever. I always use triangles and sliding. That way it removes weight all throughout the crown area. I over directed all of this hair up, and then I removed deep V sections all throughout this expanded shape. So as it falls, you can see here that she's got a lot more movement in the crown, and it didn't compromise the weight or the perimeter really strength, but it still gave her a lot more movement. Now I'm gonna go in with our protective blow dry spray from Silk. This is gonna add a lot of increased shine and color protection, as well as heat protection using the tamanu oil and the silk proteins and keratin. Using this liberally throughout the hair is something that I recommend all of my color treated guests go home with, especially the beautiful red family. This is an amazing product that will protect the longevity of her color. After that, I'm gonna go ahead and use the Silk Style Enhancing Curl Cream. I use about 3 to 4 pumps per section of her hair. Because she does have quite a bit of hair, I prefer to start like this. I emulsify into the entire amount of my hands, and I always show my guests this when working on them. And then I'm gonna just scrunch it through bottom, mid to the top with that product. And then I might just use one more pump around the hairline to give her a little bit extra definition and hold. I'm gonna go ahead and diffuse, and we're gonna see what happens with her natural pattern. I might not do any heat styling with tools. It's probably just gonna be a little bit of twisting. Sometimes if I wanna give a little bit of control to a curl pattern and tell it what I want it to do, I might take sections that I see grouping together, and I'll just give them a nice little light twist to set them in place. So right in here, I can see that this is inclined to kind of stay in one big piece. Instead, I'm gonna tell it what I want it to do. I want it to twist backward a little bit, and as I do that, I'll just bundle it together, again using a little bit more of this curl enhancing cream. As I take these sections, that'll give it a little bit of memory. The amazing thing about the curl enhancing cream is you can also round brush with it in. So if I decide that I wanna take a round brush using one of my various brushes to add some curls to it with heat, I'll do that. It will blow out really smooth and still have a lot of hold. So in doing this, I'm just getting some of the sections to bundle, kind of enhancing its natural direction of what it will do. And then as I diffuse it, it will open up a little bit of texture. It'll also give a little bit of lift and body. But as you can see, I'm setting some of these curls into place so that it obeys me and has a more finished, refined look when I'm done. Feast your eyes on this. Can you believe the amount of expression that that enhancing curl cream brought out? I just hit her curls with a diffuser for just a few minutes, alternating side to side and making sure that I left those twists in place while I bundled and enhanced it upward. But just look at how gorgeous, absolutely stunning Bethany's hair is now. One of my favorite things about Illumine is how versatile it is, and I think it's a tool that really can be underestimated. It's just perfect to enhance a little bit more shine. When I went ahead and cleansed Bethany, I didn't want a big change in her color direction. I was actually very satisfied with the overall tone, but I decided to use that overlay just so we could get this amount of shine and intensity. So you can see the amount of texture and dimension as well that were added with those panels of color. It's very subtle, but that was on purpose because we want this to grow out nicely. You could even see the slices and the amount of dimension I added in those panels could have been an overwhelming amount of color if I was using powdered lightener or was going for a really high contrast look, or I was working on a finer straight-haired guest. Given that Bethany has so much hair and that we were looking for only a couple levels of dimensional difference, I think that those ribbons were the perfect fit. You can see how it enhances a little bit of reflection in her color. You can see something a little different about it that makes it catch your eye, but it's actually not that obvious. I hope you've enjoyed watching this process as much as I've enjoyed creating this gorgeous look on Bethany. Thank you.